All right, welcome to the Hot Box, episode 158. We're live, just hanging out on Wednesday, just enjoying the day off. It's July 1st. Congratulations, Oregon. We'll talk about that. Got a really cool conversation this time. It's not a business trying to sell something weed related. This is a friend of mine, works at a dispensary in Eastern Washington, and they're having a little problem with the council, if you will. So we're going to talk about that, and we got her box to give away. So let's start the show. Very exciting. On the seventh day.
The terrors of tripping on top.
Be there! Scour the spaceways! Explore fast! Tin right here contains the whole rigmarole.
I used to smoke about an ounce of hash every day. And it made me go a little bonkers.
Maybe if I occupy his mind with more duties, I can control his space.
Hi, big fat doobies. Hi.
Hi, what's up, everybody? Today is Wednesday, July 1st, 2015. It's episode 158 of the Hot Box. I'm Matt, going to talk about some weed-related stuff. Congratulations, Oregon, July 1st, recreational marijuana there's legal. Now, you can't quite get it yet, but you can have it, so that's really awesome. All right, we got a winner to announce for the Herbox giveaway. You guys remember we talked to Kenya Brantley a couple episodes ago, and he gave us a couple of boxes to try out. One was reviewed. You can find that over on stuffstonerslike.com. The other one we're giving away to you. So we had a bunch of great entries. I'll post a couple of them up on the show notes. I'm not going to read through them all, but just people wanted to put all sorts of great stuff in these, from souls to endless, like, bottomless pits of weed. Like, I don't know how they were going to do that, but I like the idea. So basically what I did, I took all the names, I put them on a little piece of paper, and I cut them up, and I put them into her box, and I reached around in there, and I pulled out a winner, and that winner, his name is Dan F. So congratulations, Dan. Email info@hotboxpodcast.com, and we'll get that sent out to you. So, all right, without further ado now, we're going to get into our interview. We're going to talk to Nathan Betts from Canna for Life and the Time Spent Poorly podcast. Let's welcome Nathan. All right. How's it going, Nathan? Oh, wait, you're muted. Hit the mic button. That always happens. You're not the only one.
Every time. Hello. Better?
Much better. How's it going, Nathan?
I'm doing great. If I could figure out how technology worked, it'd be even better.
It's all right. You are not the only one.
Yeah.
You are from the Time Spent Poorly podcast. You have a Facebook called Free the Choice.
Yeah.
Working in a dispensary in Washington where weed is recreationally legal. And unlike Oregon right now, you can actually buy and sell it in shops. Sounds like a great job. What happened? Why are you not at work right now?
Well, this is probably the best job that I've ever had come across my family's table, and there are 5 crusty old men who have decided that their morals are better than mine, and said that you cannot have your legal state-regulated product in our city, and we're having a really hard time getting that undone. We are facing textbook tyranny right here in little city Clarkson, Washington.
And so this is a city moratorium, basically, but they enacted it without really voting on it? Or, like, how did you guys open for business? And we have kind of a timeline of articles that we'll link to in the show notes, hotboxpodcast.com, that kind of shows, at least from what a media standpoint is showing, like what articles are in the media about this place is getting ready to open. And then it's like, oh, this place opened. And then it's like, oh, this place is no longer open. So, like, how did that all go down? Was there a raid per se, or did they just come and say you can't be open, or what?
So the exact timeline was June 1st we got open. June 8th we heard there was going to be a little bit of trouble in the water. And then before that all got said and done, we were open for 8 business days. So the Monday. So I guess that would have been Monday, June 8th. We got closed down by an injunction that got forced through. And they actually got a restraining order against us, so we're not even technically supposed to be going into our own store or anything like that.
They got a restraining order? That's
there's some sort of restraining order that went with the injunction. I'm not exactly sure what the restraining order entailed and what it prohibited us from precisely, but there was a...
I find that a real interesting move. That like that's usually reserved for when people have conflict. It's like, don't come near me because I have this restraining order, and they're like, you can't go near your building because we have a restraint. Like that is such a weird move. It's
so
like,
I'm not exactly sure how it works, but because I've actually had to go there and pick a couple of things up since then. So all I know is that there was an injunction and that there was a restraining order that went along with it somehow. I'm not exactly sure how that exactly worked, but we did business for 8 days. We raised well over the projected amounts that we thought that we were going to be making. We raised over $60,000 in 8 business days. We raised over $5,000 for city and county taxes in 8 business days. If you were to extrapolate that out between 2 stores opening in the city, which is another thing that we'll have to address here in a moment. There's another store open at the moment doing the exact same thing that we're doing. If you were to extrapolate that out times 2 stores, you're looking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that our city and county will not be receiving, because House Bill 2136 just passed the other day, and it restructured the tax structure. Instead of a 75% tax structure that it was doing, 25% at the grower, 25% at the processor, 25% at the retailer, it wiped that all out to a flat 37% at point of sale. So 37% times this, times that, times everything else comes to somewhere between $800,000 to $1.2 million per year that our county will not be allowed to take part of, because if you have a ban in place, your municipality gets nothing. And by nothing, I mean nothing. We get nothing.
You get more than that because you get hassled, you get just sad populace. I mean, what you mentioned you had great business. Like what were some of the people? These were medical patients, or is this a recreational issue, or is this still medical?
So I-502 forces medical to kind of no longer exist with a Senate bill called 5052.
Well, right, but you can still be open for a certain amount of time. And that's why I was wondering if you guys were 502 or if you were operating just under medical.
No, we actually tried. That was the first thing that we tried to do. We tried to become a medical dispensary, and our I believe if you go back into some city council meeting minutes, you can actually find the chief of police, Joel Hastings. I believe he has said on record, or he might have said this off record, I can't remember which, but he said if you try to open a legal marijuana store, you'll be closed down so fast before you can even say we're open. So I don't know what their deal is with medical, but they just did not want that here. But for some reason they were okay for a brief moment of time that a 502 recreational store would open. So
I wonder if they were I wonder if they were trying to prevent some sort of like you can take a medical shop and see the kind of patients that are going in there, and clearly probably the majority of them actually need this as a medicine, epileptics, pain, whatever their case is. And I feel like by wanting that out of the picture, they're almost like controlling the propaganda, saying that you're not going to be allowed to say we took medicine away from patients, because we're not going to let you get that far. Like that's kind of what it seems like from an outside perspective. And
that's exactly, and since that's the way it seems from an outside perspective, it's even goes deeper than that. But from your outside perspective, you are exactly correct, sir. That is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically stack the cards into their favor. And if you look into some of the things that have been happening over the last 4 to 6 months here, you'll just see a domino effect of just tyrannical decision after tyrannical decision. And I don't use the word tyranny lightly. I actually do mean that in the purest textbook form of the word. This is government setting themselves out and setting themselves apart to basically block specific people from something that has been voted upon.
It's corruption.
Yeah, it's voted upon. There was a city council member that actually resigned, and he is no longer attending city council meetings anymore because of all of this. And to replace his seat, there was also a super huge controversial move to replace the person that you'll actually be able to go into the show notes and watch some of the YouTube videos that we have of this happening in real time. But there is a very pro marijuana ban individual that just mysteriously made her way into the interim seat. And I gotta ask you, Matt, how do you think that freaking happened?
Man, I watched those videos, and it's very like backroomy, except that it's not, because it's right there. It's city council. And they're like, we have these two people. One is totally qualified, but is logical and will probably be on your side, and the other one can be our puppet. So we're gonna go ahead and put in our puppet without even letting the rest of the people vote, it seemed like. I mean, the one guy abstained. He was like, I can't be a part of this. And then the rest of them were all like buddy, like, oh yeah, no problem.
And the one guy that abstained in that video is the only supporter we have on our side. So we have 7 council members and a mayor. The mayor is easily in her late 50s, early 60s, whatever her age range is. She's basically wiped her hands completely clean of it and says, you guys do whatever you guys do. And then the 5, but you can watch the 5 just do what they do. This is like freaking Hazard County around here.
It's a high school clique that you watch them like totally have each other's back in that eerie, corrupt way that like they all have something on everyone. And it's like, if I go down, you're coming down with me, you know?
Well, the last video that I linked to you was the shortest one, with the blonde talking, asking specific pointed questions, saying, why are you against this? Why? No one's given an answer.
Never got an answer. Not a one.
And then the one guy that actually does, though, has a very like Bruce Wayne-esque story about, well, my parents died at a very young age due to alcohol, so don't even go there on the alcohol thing with me. I'm like, okay. And that's when the whole entire audience erupted, not out of disrespect, but because he just approved 4 or 5 months ago a $10,000 tax bill that supports wine tourism in our town.
Ooh.
We have one freaking winery in our town, sir. By the way, it's not one of those fancy wineries where you can go in and enjoy and like taste it or whatever. It's literally a storage locker for wine. There's nothing.
It's just a liquor store, pretty much.
Yeah, it's the freaking place to go store barrels. So you can tell me all you like about how you want to increase wine tourism in this county and think that it's just a great idea. Oh, wait a second. The person that's most staunchly for this is most staunchly against alcohol. And
what he doesn't know
what alcohol has to do with marijuana.
Does he know that alcohol is in wine? He might not know. I mean,
honestly,
I don't know these people. I would bring it up to him at the next meeting and be like, sir, we just thought we should tell you that, you know, alcohol is in wine. Boxed wine.
This is not grape juice, sir.
Yeah. So does he, I don't understand, like you were saying, I don't understand that jump in logic where alcohol killed my parent. Like, was marijuana the getaway driver? Or I don't understand where he's making that. Like, does he drink coffee? Because if you're going to say drugs killed your family, then that's a drug. But if you're saying alcohol did it, that's not the same as marijuana. Like, alcohol has done a ton of terrible shit that marijuana has never done. I mean, you cannot. That's like saying crack killed my sister, so I hate eating broccoli.
Yeah,
it's like, that's not.
We'll make the same connection. It's the same damn thing.
Yeah, that's insane. And that's, again, we talked about this a little bit off show, but in a lot of towns like this, these people run unopposed, and they are completely given like free reign to do whatever they want. And as soon as that power is challenged with anything that they don't like they gang up and shut that shit down. And that's, you're seeing it classic. We saw it in Montana with the medical thing tried to get repealed. Yeah. They brought 30,000 patients to 3,000 in like the course of a month or two, just from changing laws and threatening. It's like, well, we're going to repeal it totally. And then after that, they're like, okay, then they give you their bill. And it's like, well, we can either get rid of it completely or you can have it our way. And it's like, man, that is so shady.
Or, yeah, but where's the part where the people get what they want? That's what I don't understand. So
that part's in Canada.
Yeah, apparently. But the thing is, though, Matt, is that this has been something that we have voted upon, and we successfully showed in spades. This is what this particular state wants, and 7 out of 8 precincts voted for it in the city proper. So they are actually going out of their way to put on this is not a moratorium, Matt. There was actually 2 moratorium periods. When the first, and I think a lot of cities actually did this, where
when first started,
and they put in a moratorium because they're like, well, we can't just have crap popping up all over the place unregulated. So they put in a moratorium. That's totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. Then they put in a second one and said, at the end of the second one, we will review everything, and we'll review everything that we have as far as who's applied, who's compliant, who's got their business license from the state, yada, 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 yada. Oh, by the way, here's this old, decrepit building that will cost you somewhere around $300,000 to make compliant with the state and the handicapped people, and so you go ahead and put at least $300 to $350 or $1,000 into this building, and we'll think about issuing your business license. So they did that. They got ADA compliant. They have a nice ramp. They rebuilt the whole place. It's one of the first. One of the first hospitals in town. So the building's got historical value to it. And what I think happened, and this is just purely speculation as a citizen, so they had a crappy, old, decrepit building that needed fixed. They saw a way to fix it, and then saw a way around fixing, not having to spend tax dollars on fixing it, and getting a chance to ban the thing that they didn't want. So they're like, okay, we'll issue you your business license as soon as you fix up this thing and get compliant and state compliant and do all these things, check on, A to Z. Come back to us. So we came back with checklist A to Z, showed it to them. No, we're not going to issue that to you. Screw you guys. We're going to open anyway. And that's exactly what we did. We have a state license.
Like, I can't think of any other industry that gets bullied around so much by the government and still manages to bring in profit and make money. And like, that's borderline extortion. That's being like, I'm going to give you this thing if you meet these requirements, and then you spend money. You spend money out of pocket to meet all of the requirements, and then they come back and they're like, oh, we already gave it to this other dude, or we're not giving it at all.
Or by the way, we're just not going to do it. Or nah, I don't really like what you said at the last city council meeting. So
we decided we don't like you, so we're actually not going to do that thing we said that you could do if you did all of these things, which you have done. Thanks for the new bill.
Right. Thanks for the new building, and thanks for the very, the heartthrob of the thoroughfare of the downtown. Like, that is in the center of the center of the center of downtown where they put us. And everybody was pissed off about where they put it. We're like, look, people, this is where we got zoned. Don't be mad at us. Be mad at your planning committee. And then they wanted to. So this is the shady crap that we get, Matt. So the city has a moratorium. The moratorium expires. They issue a second moratorium. They say at the end of this moratorium, which I think they're going at 90 days at a time. I'm not positive on that, but I think that's what's going on. At the end of the second moratorium, we'll readdress this and we'll see about getting you guys open. So we do jump through all the hoops, and then they're like, okay, so now you're not going to get your city business license. You're not going to get your city business license fee back of $150, I think. Might have just been $50, somewhere between $50 and $150. They kept that, and then they said, oh, by the way, we're also going to ban the sale within the city limits. So everybody immediately said, well, why don't you just go out to the county? Well, let's evaluate that one sentence. Why don't you just go out to the county?
Like pick up our $300,000 building that we just, I mean, that's a lot.
Wasted $300,000 plus on a building.
Yeah.
We just got told that we'd get open if we did this, and this, and then we can't. And then they're like, hey, relocate to the county. Well, here's what happened in the county. They zoned it on a place called Evans Road. If you're familiar with the place, it's in the middle of freaking nowhere. And there's not a speck of road, infrastructure, telephone line, sewer line, water, power. There's nothing out there.
Camping. You're basically camping at the point.
So it would cost us somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000 to do that route. But where they zoned it, not one single piece of dirt is for sale. Not one piece of property is even available.
That's very reminiscent of the marijuana tax stamp move back in the day. Like, yeah. We can, you can have it if you get these stamps. I don't know where to get these stamps, but if you find one, good on you.
Good luck, and you can have as much as you'd like.
Yeah, that's such a shady move when you don't want to come to terms with, like, the reality of the situation. You just make up some complete bullshit thing that you know people aren't going to get around. And if they happen to, then you still say, well, tough shit. You know, like, that's so appalling that a government is running that way still.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we might as well see if Boss Hogg is on the line. You know what I mean? Like, it's just...
It is Hazard County stuff, right? Like, we're going to do whatever we want and tough shit for anyone that doesn't like it. Why don't you just move? Like, well, why don't I just go to Canada then at that point? Why don't I just move to Western Washington where they're... That's not the point. This is my home. I want to do this in my home.
And I voted to do it from my home.
Right. And so that's why I wanted to ask you. You guys passed this, so that means there's a large constituent set there that is not happy, or like what are people doing there? I've seen some signs.
Okay,
I saw a bunch of the protests you guys were doing at the building. And in a town like that makes a difference. People see.
We tried to do some protesting. We tried to make signs. We've tried to talk to the council members like directly. In the show notes, there'll be myself and 3 other people, I believe, 2 or 3 other people that addressed the council specifically this last meeting, which was on June 22nd, I believe, is when that happened. So not too long ago. And the mayor of the freaking city interrupted my 3-minute allotment. Though, by the way, they're allowing us 3 minutes total per person just because they don't want to sit there and hear it because they're not listening. But we were allotted 3 minutes apiece, and the mayor interrupted me 2 times in my 3-minute allotment and literally made me lose my train of thought so badly that I accidentally called her the wrong name. So when you go to watch the video in the show notes of me speaking to the council, it looks like I'm being extremely disrespectful. However, I am not. She disrespected me first, and it made me lose train of thought. I call her Kathy instead of Kathleen, and it got ugly for about 45 seconds. And I wasted a good minute of my 3 minutes just trying to figure out what the hell her real name was. So I got.
You can tell, like, I watched this video as well, and the look on their face, they're like, "Oh, this guy again, not this asshole again." Yeah. Like they're over it, and they're not going to change their minds.
And I've only been in to talk 2 times. That was only the 2nd time I've ever spoken.
But you could tell, like, they didn't.
You can see them glaze over right in their eyes. It was like,
it's like, this is your job, and you're the one causing this. You didn't have to do any of this if you weren't corrupt, but you did, and now we're gonna come in and tell you why that sucks every moment, every chance that we get.
So this is the part that I was waiting for this is what I want to start blasting from the mountaintops. The last city council meeting, which I wish to God that this had got captured on video, we checked with everybody that was there that night to see if anybody captured it on video, and as far as we can tell, the only place this is going to exist is in the meeting minutes. But I can tell you, I promise you, I have no reason to lie about this. I have no reason to fabricate this or make this up. I will tell you that at a certain point in the city council meeting, 2 things happened from the same staunch anti-pot person. His name is Terry Beatles. He's the leader of the pack. And first off, he opened the meeting by saying, you know, all of you pro-marijuana people, I feel like the city council, I don't know why this issue keeps coming up every single meeting. This is the 4th meeting in a row that this issue's come up, and I kind of feel like the city council is being harassed by all these pro-marijuana supporters. Literally said and used the word harassed. It is your freaking job, sir, to listen to us. That is categorically your job description. Listen to constituents and fulfill their votes. And find funds and allocate funds. Find funds and allocate funds. That's your job. Listen to people, allocate funds. And you're being harassed. Screw you, sir.
Yeah, that's appalling. That's like, I hate people and I'm no good at math. I think I'm going to go have a city council seat and then I'm going to do those things that I hate.
Yeah.
It was never a problem up until recently when all these damn hippies all of a sudden started paying attention to politics and are realizing that all of these boss hog fat cats have been completely just corrupting their counties to the point where some of them have gone bankrupt. I'm sure some of them have even worse moral and ethical issues than bankruptcy. It's crazy.
To that point, sir, they're getting so corrupt that a supposed group of disenfranchised and burned out pieces of crap, whatever they want to label us as, have risen up. Okay, let me put it this way. How corrupt does a county have to become for the stoners of the community to rise up and be like, hey, whoa, 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 hey, come on now. Like,
yeah, it takes a lot of prodding.
That's a lot of tyranny to put up with when that's the loudest group that you've got on your side. But I want to bring up the other thing that I want to start shouting from the rooftops as soon as possible. This is we actually do have on video him saying that he feels harassed. Someone has it somewhere. But this portion that I'm about to say doesn't exist anywhere but in the meeting minutes. At a certain point, he said, you know, I want to address some of the things that have been happening over the last few weeks, and I just want to bring to light something that I actually thought of. And he said, "Do you realize that sometimes the voters don't always get it right?" And he goes on to say, and I laugh as I say it because it sounds so ludicrous, but it happened. So ludicrous. But he said, "In the South, do you realize that the voters voted in slavery and it took 150 years to get rid of that? So we just want to make sure that we stay on the right side of history," is basically what he came out and said. Wow. By the way, 30-second history lesson for everybody. We didn't vote slavery in. It was so commonplace and such a non-issue that Congress just, as on a whim, just wrote it in. And it took a dude named Abraham Lincoln to be like, you know, that's probably not good for a country that represents freedom to have this written into their Constitution. And that's where the Emancipation Proclamation came from. And the voters, guess what? Voted it out. They didn't vote it in, but we did vote it out. So categorically untrue.
And you know where the corruption in those small governments lied there? They had their slaves. They were fighting that even after the war. Like, you as an African American, from what I understand, you did not want to go into the South even after slaves were all free. And that's kind of what you're seeing in these counties, where it's still whatever mentality they wanted. F everything else. If it shifts to this more progressive mind state, we're still gonna, you know, do our thing back here.
Yeah, it's becoming. They're basically, they've been doing this with their hand, and they're playing it really close to their vest, and then all of a sudden, this last city council meeting, they just went whoop. Yeah. They gave a quick little show, and we're like, oh my God. We took the red pill and we had no idea how far this rabbit trail was going to go, but it goes a lot farther than we thought. And this is literally, Matt, this is no longer about pot anymore, dude. This is about, I have no idea what it's even about anymore, but it's about something else.
It's government corruption. I mean, if anything.
It's government corruption. It's tyranny. It's our civil liberties are being stomped on. As far as I understand what 502 stands for, is you are supposed to get easy, accessible medicine alternative. That's my understanding of what the intent of 502 was. They wanted to roll the medical in with the recreational, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what has happened. Me personally, I think 50-52 should have never been a part of it. I think they should have left them separate. That's a completely different talk for a completely different time. This is what it is, and this is what we are facing now in the state of Washington. And You can't have one without the other now.
To tell you, I've always thought that too. Like, you can have both, and you can have a medical side that is held to a higher set of standards, and you have a recreational side that can have those standards if they want. The market will sort that out. But you could also have a little bit of tax from the recreational go to support a bunch of medical research. Like, they can both help each other. The good stuff that comes out of the medical research eventually makes its way into the recreational market, so we can all enjoy these breakthroughs. But yeah, I understand, for the sake of the ease of the experiment that these Colorado and Washington and now Oregon are participating in, it's easier to have one, right? You don't want to have it all spread out, and you want the liquor board to not get all confused and have hands in medical stuff and just deal with this like it's a fun party drug, and that's fine. That's the easy way, which is whatever. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, there should be, your medical patients, if you're using this for cancer, for epilepsy, for anything like that, it should, without a doubt, be held to a stricter standard. I mean, you don't want bugs or contaminants, anything like that. You know.
Yeah. And you did ask me at the beginning of the show, and I didn't quite answer it correctly before we got off onto another subject. But I would say in the 8 days that I was open, I helped. And we were open from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. and we were all running on a volunteer basis. So we only had about 4 or 5 of us. So we were there all freaking day. So I can tell you exactly what happened in that store for all 8 days being open. But I can tell you, in my experience being there, that we served over 75% medical people. And there was people there that just wanted to relax and enjoy their dabs or enjoy their whatever we had for recreational, which is totally fine. If you want to go upriver and you stop by the store and grab a 6-pack, cool, more power to you. Have a good time, drink that responsibly, and enjoy yourself. Me personally, if I'm headed upriver, I would like to have a place where I can go stop by and grab a joint or two, because that's really convenient for me. So I don't see a difference between the two of them anymore. I haven't drank actively since I was like 28 or so, is when I kind of stopped drinking. I'll have a drink here now and then, but I honestly, sir, can't handle the hangovers anymore. I'm getting too old for that shit.
Yeah, it's a completely, like, I mean, the two substances are completely opposite as far as mental, physical, physiological, like all of that. It's the one is a very dirty, divisive, fighty, like it's a negative high. The other, weed, is such a positive high in comparison. Like, it's night and day. It's insane how, and they just like, oh, that's fine. You can drink and be fine in every state, unless you're a dry county. You're not in a dry county, are you? I would expect you to be, because of how his stance on alcohol is.
You would think, but there is a bar.
Interesting.
There is, on the exact same street that the city council is located on, 3 more blocks down, there's a sports bar.
And that's fine?
Oh, yeah.
He's not picketing out there, shutting them down because alcohol killed his parents?
Not picketing, no. But you would think that he would be, because he's got like a Batman-esque, and by Batman-esque, I mean like a Bruce Wayne-esque vendetta against alcohol. You can tell the way he talks about it. He's like, when I was young and I lost my parents when I was young, and I'm like, yeah, what's your name, Bruce, or is your name Terry?
Yeah, I'm like, I saw that movie. Hold on.
Yeah, I know this origin story. And
that highlights like the hypocrisy and the fact that they don't even care enough to try and hide their own hypocrisy. They're just open with it
now. And the thing that I have, or the biggest problem that I have with that, is that if you're staunchly against something, you better freaking be damn sure that you know exactly the ins, the outs, and all of the benefits, pros, cons, and everything about whatever subject that you're trying to say that you're coming out against. And that's just my personal beliefs, and that's how I deal with things. So I hold my city officials to a kind of high standard, I guess. But I can tell you that there was one city official that came in to see how our shop operated, and that was the one person that's on our side. Everyone else just wanted to throw rocks from afar.
Nope. They didn't even give the time to go and do the due diligence of inspecting and seeing where did all that money go that you spent. Like, you building up, like, they didn't even take the time, which completely validates the fact that they have no interest in what the people want or in moving this industry forward and gaining all of the benefits from it. Like they don't care.
Well, as a public servant and your only job offer is to listen to your constituents and find funds and allocate them, we're offering nothing but funds. Hey, over here. Hey, city council members, we have $800 to $1.2 million per year for you to just go use and make our city look nice. We don't care what you do with it. It's just there for you to find a project for and allocate the funds to. By the way, textbook definition of what your job is. So I don't know what the problem is.
Build a school, buy some textbooks. I mean, there's unlimited potential with what you could do with that money if you embraced it.
Well, the one thing that we found out, and I don't think that just the way that the tax structure is structured, that this fund can actually be used for this, unfortunately. But when we were open, we did find out that the high school, which is only about 8 city blocks away from where we were located at the time, we found out that the high school roof is horribly leaking, and there's no funds to fix it. And so we harped on that for a long time.
There's barely funds to pay the teachers to be in the school to babysit your kids. Like the education system could benefit greatly from all of this.
I hope they take every freaking dime of this and put it right back into re-educating people and doing whatever is good for a better Washington and a better future and a better United States as a whole. We're a pretty influential state over here on the West Coast. A lot of people look to us for, hey, what is Seattle doing? Hey, what's Olympia doing? Hey, what are they doing in the Northwest? Well, a lot of people instantly associate the Northwest with Seattle and Olympia and Oregon. So whenever they say, hey, what's Washington doing? Well, we'll have to slice ourselves off of that and say, well, our big sister's doing good, our big brother's doing good over there, but we're effed over here. So
it's almost like you're too close to Idaho, and that Idaho zero tolerance mentality. Like, I always loathe driving through Idaho when I have to go back home to Montana. Being a weed refugee in Washington, my home is in Montana, and to get there, you got to cross through this little dick-length section of Idaho. And man, people there are so nice. The laws there are not, and it appalls me every time that I'm just like, how can you be so off from like what everybody else is doing? You're in this pocket of just ignorance.
And you're in a pocket of such beautiful ignorance too.
I know. I love Idaho.
Flowers Fair area, so pretty over there, and they're all just.
Oh man,
sucks.
Yeah, it'll change. It's gonna take a while though, and that was the other thing that interested me about this is that I assume being here in Western Washington that like, whoever wanted weed shops set up got them. And then you were like, oh, I got a job in this thing. Oh, except that they just closed it down. So it is interesting to see the dichotomy of sorts of one side of Washington being completely fine and making a ton of money and putting it back into their communities and everything. And then this other side that is like completely still fighting against it, but you're in the same state. And like
and it's a really weird dichotomy also to watch because we're fighting against something that's been 3 years won. So it's hard to rally troops around something to just go and beat a dead horse. Hey.
Everyone's like, we already did that.
Yeah.
Hold on. You guys didn't get the memo?
Like, why?
It's amazing. We sent the memo to everybody in Washington. I'm sorry your county didn't have
missed it.
At the time. Missed it.
We missed it because we were busy. We were too busy making sure that we remained as absolute backwood as possible. There is one council member, I'll name him by name on here. His name is Brian Kolstead, who's been nothing but awesome for us. If we had 4 more of him on council, we would not be in this predicament. But we only have 1 of him out of 7, and then the mayor. So in an election year, we have 4 city council members going up for re-election this year, and they've all ran unopposed for several years. And guess who's not running unopposed on any single 4 of those seats this year?
Oh, interesting.
The mayor has ran unopposed for the last 2 elections, I believe. That's just a guess, but I want to say it was the last 2 elections unopposed. She's got an opponent now.
Oh, good. So should we nominate you for mayor, or do you just want a council seat? What are you shooting for?
See, the thing is they only make like $600 a month, and it's a lot of pain in the ass for a lot of nothing. So
That's awesome.
I would take it if I gave that much of a crap, but I just want to get political enough to make them uncomfortable, make them realize the error of their ways, get the error of their ways removed from them, get new people in office, and then cross my fingers that it doesn't get any worse.
Yeah, you're like me. You just want to work in the industry and live a happy, comfortable life doing it. Like,
I just want to do the job that was
be able to do that, and you're going to city council meetings to be able to do that. Two things we never would have expected each other to be doing. Like,
I would never have thought, if I was to put a trajectory on my life and said, okay, when you're 33 years old, you're going to make the best decision of your life that turns out to be the worst decision of your life because of 5 a-holes, and you're going to become a political activist because of said a-holes to remove said a-holes, and I would have looked at that person and said, ha!
You're high. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. In 33 years, you will be standing in front of some city council members arguing over the semantics of Catherine, Kathleen, Kathy, and Carol.
Or whatever the hell your name is missing.
Like, who would have guessed? There's no way. There's no way.
You know when, how, why that would have ever came about, but I have made the right choices to put me into this boat. And one thing that I can tell you is that once I sink my teeth into something, I turn into a pit bull and just start shaking until crap starts flying off of it. So we'll see what ends up flying off of it. We'll see if I end up breaking my own jaw for it. I hope I don't have to cut off my own nose to spite my face, that kind of thing, you know. But
what's the call to action? Like, what are you guys, what's the next step in fighting this? Like, where are you guys at right now currently?
All I can say is where I personally am at currently, and I got a couple of people that I have bounced this off of, and they 100% agree with me. One of them happened to be an attorney, and one of them happened to be just somebody that I like to bounce ideas off of, and they all agree that this is probably the best idea. So June 22nd City Council meeting, which has videos in the show notes from, we all are hammering on the pro cannabis drum. This is why we think it's good. 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 We've been hammering on the pro-medical marijuana drum for 3 or 4 council meetings now. The last one proved that they will just gloss over when marijuana even comes up. So the new tactic from me is to take it to the civil liberties arena and get people that don't even give 2 craps about marijuana involved about how corrupt their government is.
You're going to bring Al Sharpton to Washington over there. And you're just shit down.
Whoever needs to come to Washington. I will bring the Al Sharpton of to Washington. I'll call Governor Inslee myself if I have to. My next move, honestly, is to get people involved that wouldn't have been involved prior, which is just tell people, hey, we have a corrupt city government, and this is why. And then the next move, someone suggested that I should get a hold of via Twitter, get a hold of Snoop Dogg, get a hold of Willie Nelson, get a hold of everybody pro, Doug Benson, and just start tweeting the crap out of them and say, hey, this is what's happening in Washington. This is illegal. This is what's happening. So I believe that at some point during this week, at Nathan L. Betts on Twitter will be hitting up at Doug Benson and at Snoop Dogg and at whoever the hell else.
That's good, though.
This was the first step in getting it out.
Those are the kind of people that can bring the kind of attention that these corrupt city council members don't really want. I mean, that is a headline that basically writes itself. Everyone thinks like everything's A-okay with weed in Washington, except for this little town. And how many times is that multiplied? Like, how many other little towns are there that this is happening in? And it's not just like you said, the weed thing. This is a whole, if they're going to overturn that because they disagree with you, what's stopping them from overturning something else? That
or imposing something else we don't want.
Exactly. If they're not willing to respect the voters, then what do they respect? You know, that's what their job is. They should be fired.
With him telling us that he feels harassed, and then him bringing up the whole slavery thing, he might have said, he should have just said, your vote doesn't count for squat. We know best. We have the morals. We have all the morals, and you have none of them. So let us just do what it is what we do best, which is rule from our bench like we have from 1995. And we're just going to keep on bulldozing the things that we don't like. Bulldoze, bulldoze, bulldoze. And that's just the thing, is that you can't do that without finding the Nathan Bettses and the Matt Lees of the world and whoever else is. For us, we got Kelly Jackson and Julie Jackson and Matt Plemons and another person that's got to remain unnamed at this time. But, you know, we've got people that are real lives are being affected by real actual city officials. That's the biggest problem. I am unable to plan for my next chapter of my life, which is very, very largely unwritten. I've just found out that you and I are in the same boat. Got surprises on the way, the both of us. I've got a surprise in December. Sounds like your surprise is January.
Right. Yeah, buddy.
God, I hope I didn't just
No.
before, right?
No, you're totally good. Not at all.
Okay, good.
But yeah,
I just crossed my mind that you might not have said that yet.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But I can understand that. Like, I have a job in this cannabis industry, and with a child on the way, as you do, like, if you can't work, how are you going to do that? Like, you have to have a job. And if that city council is preventing you from doing that, like, they're basically preventing you from what America was founded on, if you buy into the whole American dream and the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Like, they are completely getting in the way of that.
I'm not allowed to pursue any one of those three things. Any one of those three things have been removed from me. They're about to be removed from the other guy that's open right now, which we can talk about here in just a second. They've removed it from Kelly. They've removed it from Julie, and they've removed it from my manager. Like, we can't continue our lives have been completely turned upside down, interrupted. Ask any one of our wives how they feel about what's going on.
I'm sure they are thrilled.
Oh my God, you would have a heyday if my wife had the actual balls to talk in front of people like I do. She would.
I was gonna say they should be stuck on the council and let them yell at them for some minutes.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you one thing is that you get a pissed off mama going on something, you will get results. I will tell you that right now. So I don't honestly know what the right answer is. I can just tell you what's happening to me, and I can tell you what I want to do next. And what I want to do next is tell everybody that will listen to me that we have some ass backwards people here running the show here, and I have no idea why or how it's gotten to this level. I do know that the leader of the pack was appointed to his position in 1995 and has ran unopposed almost this entire time for the last 20 years.
Well, there you go. It's either choosing the lesser of two evils over and over again times, 100 years, and eventually you get evil. I mean, you keep doing that, or you have this situation where there is no other choice and you're just stuck with the evil that you were blessed with back in the days somehow. Like,
besides writing in like Mickey Mouse or something.
Yeah, I'm writing in like not your name. Like, where are these people coming from? And the fact that like this is what the voters wanted, and for no better reason than that you hate this other substance that's not even this one that you're preventing people. You're not trying to work at the liquor store, right? You're trying to like that. That people need to know for sure, because I can't get over the fact that there's no gain for them. There's no negative for them. They're not like going to be hit with pot in the face, or like there's no negative side to that except that they don't want to.
They want to be right. It's all at this point. It's a matter of pride. They said so, so it will be. And whether or not they have to break...
That's not democracy. That's Game of Thrones. Like, I'm going to just cut your freaking head off then if you don't like what I'm doing.
Yes. So... what was the year of Game of Thrones? 900 AD, or 900, 1000, 1100 AD or so, give or take.
Right?
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and roll back the clocks, not to, sometime in the distant past or the recent past. Let's go way back and say, okay, well, this is how things have always gone. It is, like, you can go back and see all kinds of representations in our entertainment and in our history.
Oh, yeah. And the second it happens, people realize it. Sometimes it takes a minute, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We got a lot of things going on. Sometimes it takes a minute. But then they do, and then the word gets out. And now with the internet, the word gets out a lot quicker. Wow. And pretty soon they're like, oh, well, that thing we were being dicks about, like, we're not sorry, but we're not going to be dicks about it anymore. And it's like, oh, what made you change your mind? Was it the 100,000 phone calls you received in the last day? Or like what happened? Did you realize?
I can also tell you one thing that I haven't told you yet is that there is a Facebook page called Free the Choice that exists because we had a business page called Canna for Life on Facebook that just, I won't point any fingers or make any assumptions other than to say, one day I woke up and it was just mysteriously gone. And I got a note from Facebook that I had been basically put in Facebook jail and told, here's how you go about going on Facebook without getting yourself in trouble. I basically got a what do you call that? Training. I basically got sensitivity training from Facebook. My Facebook page just was removed, and then there's a link that they said, here, if you want to learn how to not get shut down in the future, and I read through it, and there's probably 8 different pages, and I took a screenshot of a couple of them, and it was literally a sensitivity training put on by Facebook.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And I mean, that just, like, you struck a nerve with somebody.
Yeah. And I can tell you,
it's a good example of why you should own your platform. And I mean, you know this, but like all these social networks, you don't own that stuff. You use it, you're the product, and you don't own it. And if somebody or enough people, like, they don't like what you're doing, they will get it removed. And all that content is gone.
Yeah.
Like, you don't own it. So
by the way, like 60 to 80 hours worth of my time just gone.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was only in charge of that page for 3 weeks.
Especially in this kind of business, so to speak. Like, there's shady stuff going on. People are going to be shady about it. So you definitely got to make sure that stuff. And I mean, for anyone else that's like, the Facebook is a really great platform for that until it's not, and it gets shut down. And then you're like, now I have no voice.
I had 1,000 people following that page that I could give updates to, and that was, once we got shut down, that was my only modality of reporting to the people that cared about what happened to us, and then that was removed. So I saw trouble in the water and made Free the Choice, and I set it up on purpose as like a community support page. Nice. So if we want to try and get that one shut down, that will be some civil liberties getting stomped on. And I understand that Facebook is privately owned and there's no such thing as the First Amendment on Facebook, but still, you got to understand that that's exactly what happened. If Free the Choice mysteriously goes away one day, we'll know why. We'll know exactly why. Because it happened once and it will happen again, possibly. So,
and that's why you need a website set up that all of this stuff is on also.
Absolutely, like timespentpoorly.com or something like that, something like that. So
and that's kind of what we've always done, is use the social networks as a way to talk to the people, to interact with friends and people, and then you own all of the content on your server, and then you just kind of duplicate stuff out to all the different networks, and if one goes down, it's still on the other 3 or whatever.
Sure. Yep.
It sucks. It's a pain in the ass, and it's very time consuming, but that's how you gotta do it if you want to be legit at it, Yeah.
Well, and it took so as assistant manager, updating the social media was also one of my job duties. So I was assistant manager / media director. So I can tell you that it took me about an hour to 2 hours a night while I was actually in business to keep up with the Facebook page. Now that I'm not in business and trying to get my job back, I'm not kidding you, it takes somewhere between 6 and 7 hours a day to keep Facebook updated and people aware of what's going on, and just searching for things and content and put things to have people read, finding good articles that are science-based and fact-checked, all that good stuff.
Building the audience. You have to
turn into a full-time gig right now, which I'm lucky to have the time because, oh, by the way, I'm also on unemployment right now. Forgot to mention that at the beginning of the show, but yeah.
So rather than like giving to the community, you're actually having to pull a little out of the community just to survive by no fault of your own.
Just by making a choice. I made a job decision based on what information was given to me, and based off of that one single solitary choice, I've had to take away from my community by going on to unemployment because of this issue. I've had to be forced into an embarrassing situation where I have to tell people, hey, in my 16-year working career, I'm now, for the first time ever, on unemployment for the weirdest reason that I can possibly imagine. Like, if you were to tell me when I first entered the workforce that, hey, someday you're going to eventually end up on unemployment for the weirdest reason and you'll never understand or figure out why, yeah, you would never believe it. Honestly, you would never believe this as a reason for me being on unemployment. And I have a big problem with that because I don't like being an unemployed piece of crap. I don't like it. I don't like waking up every morning and looking for jobs that I know I won't get because I'm in the middle of a battle trying to get the job I do have back. It's just become
looking for a job, especially when you had one in an industry that you're passionate about. Clearly, you are passionate about this plant and what it can do for people. Yeah, that is the worst. I hate looking.
My dream. This is what I will say about that. My dream job, the job that I never knew was the best fit for me until it was an actual option to me, because I would have never considered this as a choice until it was a choice. But basically something that I was kind of cut out for and designed to do. I'm very, very good at this job. It's ridiculous how good I am at this job. So basically my dream job was stripped from me because 5 people don't agree with it.
I'm in the same boat, not having it stripped, but like if somebody tomorrow came up to me and was like, oh, you can't do this anymore. Like, I can't even begin to think about how furious I would be. Like, it took me 34 years to get where I am and do something that when I was in high school wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
Like, counselors being like, or because you smoke weed all the time, you could go research this plant. That wasn't even a thing. It was like, if you smoke, you're going to jail, first of all.
Right. And second of all, you're going to be labeled as a pile of crap.
Yeah. Second-class citizenry. Like, we dealt with all that. And that's the other thing that amazes me about this. Is there's few other things in the world that have such detrimental effects to your social status as far as like going through the system, getting in trouble, and having all of that and all of the propaganda negative about it that people still did and still functioned on a daily basis and still embraced, like even in the face of all of that nonsense. Like, you don't see that in very many things these days, or any days, it seems like.
Not really.
We're so into it that you were willing to give that up.
Yeah. Well, so I can tell you that I was employed by the same employer for 13 years, and I quietly, very, very privately enjoyed it recreationally since 2009. And we had a policy at our job where if you had some sort of suspicious activity on your Facebook, or somebody suspected that you were doing it, then you could get drug tested for it. So I played my cards very close to my vest, and only my closest of closest friends knew that I did it. So when I actually went in, and so since I've been doing it for 6 years, and I finally went in and resigned and told them why, they were so sideswiped that because they had no idea. Right. But since 2009, I have been a regular user, and then in 2014 I injured my shoulder and actually used it to rehabilitate my shoulder, used it for the pain of my shoulder to get through rehabilitating that. But I've moved from one house to a bigger house. I've paid off cars. I've got a paid for camper. I've got all of these things, and I don't say any of that to brag whatsoever. I say all of that to say I've been an active, pretty regular, moderate to heavy user for the last 6 years, and pretty much shattered every single stereotype a pot smoker could ever have on themselves. But since I went and I made the news and I made the newspaper, and then in turn received a bunch of questions and weird, text messages and whatnot, I ended up putting a whole thing out on my Facebook page saying, hey, I've been up to some mysterious things that I haven't really been talking about. Here's the deal. If you disagree with me, go ahead and delete me now. I don't care. But I've been forced into taking a stand that I shouldn't have had to be as public and outspoken about. And now I couldn't be prouder of my choice, and I couldn't be prouder of my stand. And I'm 100% glad that I'm doing it, because there are other people that are exactly like me, just like me, that don't have the opportunity or even the option to be outspoken about it. So I want to be that person for all those people that can't. I couldn't either until I could, and now that I can, I will not shut up about it. I refuse to shut up about it. I will tell everybody that will listen to me about it. But I will not tell anybody about it until I'm asked about it. I don't want to be that person that's just blah, blah, blah all the time. So you want to know about it? Ask me about it, and you're going to get about an hour's worth of info off of me. But I will stand up for what's right and for those that can't or won't or are unable to. I've got so many people hitting me up on Facebook. Please don't say my name. I support you secretly 100%, but my job, my family, my church, my this, my that. So I'm getting every single day someone saying thank you for being the voice that I can't have.
That's awesome. That definitely makes it worth it. I mean, you don't realize
yes.
people were closet smokers until it became an issue. And now, yeah, I definitely see that you probably get all sorts of messages that people want to support, but they can't. They can't put that on the line. And like, I've turned down jobs that I probably shouldn't have because they wanted a drug test. And I couldn't, and like my mom thought that was stupid. My brother, like people are like, why aren't you? It's like, I can't. I will not work at a place that wants to do that. Like, it's stupid and it's probably hurt me, but in the end, like I'm right where I want to be. So it's definitely worked out. But I feel for the people that are already in that situation and can't make that pivot, like, and they're the ones you're hearing from and that I hear from. And they're like, here's a little money to support the show or to help pay for a microphone or, something like that. I can't help you any other way because of my situation, but it's really interesting to see.
I had somebody make me a brand new sign because we just had some handwritten signs that says "Closed by your signature." Somebody actually took the time to hand make that out of markers. That doesn't look like it, but that is handmade out of markers. She said it took her like 8 hours. I was like, "Good God, woman, thank you so much." She's like, "Well, that's all I can really do." I was like, oh, "Thank you so much." She's like, "Yeah, I got another one that I would like for you to put on the other side of the building too." I'm like, "Good God, awesome!" So there's so many people that come to me and say, I just between you and me, I support you 100%, but I'm a union worker, I'm a teacher, or I'm a this, or I'm a that, or my church or my family, and they're pushing me, saying, keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is so important. And the thing is that I can be that person for those people, but what I can't do is help them in their situation, and that breaks my heart because there's so many people that come to me that say, I support what you're doing. I use it myself for XYZ, but I can't do I can't do it all the time, or I used to use, but now because of my new job, I can't do it anymore, and I'm forced back onto these narcotics that's killing my liver and so we've got all of these people that are coming to us and saying, God, all we want is our alternatives to narcotics. All we want is our alternative to these harmful medications for seizures, or all we want is this, or all we want is that, and it breaks my heart because there's nothing I can do for them. There's nothing I can do about it except for keep on doing what I'm doing, things like this, and blabbing from the mountaintops saying, hey, this is wrong. This is all American tyranny. Over here, over here. That's all I can do at this point. And it frustrates me to no end that that's all I can do, but at least I can do that.
Definitely get the word out. And we've seen this a lot with the synthetic stuff, that people choose that because they get drug tested, and that has way more negative detrimental effects to your health, and people die from it, and hospital visits have tripled in the last year because of these synthetic substances. And they're not all bad. Some RCs are there and they're useful, but you got to be careful with those. And when people switch because of a law to a substance that is more dangerous than the one they could have been doing. Like, that law is effed, you guys.
Or they go back to the thing that's dangerous that's the thing that I cannot figure out. So we have pharmaceuticals in this country, and everybody wants to just shove those down our throat willy-nilly, unequivocally, just here, more, have as many as you want. But
look what it's done, though. Everyone's addicted to opiates, and in some towns, it is out of control.
Oh my God, yes. Their teeth are going, their livers are going, their pancreases are getting affected, their kidneys are shutting down. There's all kinds of terrible things that are all related to hydrocodones or Oxycontin or any of those narcotics.
Interesting if you look at a way, like if I was a government and I wanted to turn my populace into a bunch of like obeying junkies, how would I do that? And it's like, oh, I would fund this massive pharmaceutical industry and not all of it's going to be what I need it to do to these people. We're going to have some good stuff that helps with headaches and this and that, but man, we're going to have a giant section of it that is just making zombies. And that's, you see these people, and I used to be one of them. Like, it is so insane what that shit does to you.
Awful. I was on it for 2 weeks for mouth surgery. It's awful. I hated it. I hated every second of it.
But the alternative is much safer, much better, and see it in places like where you're living, that it's, no, come have a drink, even though I hate that, and then wash these pills down with it, even though that's going to kill you. But don't smoke weed.
Yeah, don't smoke the weeds. It's going to make you. It's going to be a public safety concern. So that's what this all boils down to, Matt, is that they are convinced that they are saving the public from safety issues by basically supporting something that keeps the black market open. They're not going to prevent.
Validated, they have rationalized to themselves that they are doing that. That is absolutely not what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So they keep on rationalizing and keep on rationalizing to the point where, so the city council opens their meeting by saying, we feel harassed. Is there something more sinister going on, or something like to that effect?
Yeah.
And so that makes us in turn think, or at least a free-thinking person like myself think, well, okay, so they feel harassed by us. So what's in it for them by keeping this going? Do they have something more sinister? Do they have constituents that's being benefited and collecting hand over fist by the black market?
Does it go? You know, like where does this rabbit hole?
Do they have family members that are in the black market? Do they have cousins? Do they have is their attorney? What's happening to make this continue down the road of stupidity? And
figure that out. You can work around it with them and be like, all right, I understand that you need to burn witches like on the 8th full moon of every month or whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and let you do that, but we're gonna need to go ahead and open up our pot shops. So
yeah, exactly.
It's like, you got to find that thing that they are hiding, and then be like, all right, let's bargain.
Yeah. And I believe in my heart of hearts, if enough digging were to be done, we would probably find it. But it shouldn't take that, because
that's time taken away from what you should be doing, which is getting medicine and working,
So we have one attorney defending us. The city has not one, not two, but 3 attorneys keeping this going. One of them is the city attorney, the other one is a local attorney, and the other one is from the Tri-Cities.
Is that a conflict of interest? Can the city attorney represent the city against the city? Like, that's a weird, I don't know about law per se, but that doesn't sound legit to me.
Sounds pretty interesting, doesn't it?
Wow.
So so for a fact that the Tri-Cities attorney isn't cheap, and you also know for a fact that our tax-paying dollars, money that I've put in, is going to the fund to keep me out of a job. You do realize that
that's insanity in the definition.
My hard-earned tax-paying dollars is going towards keeping me out of a job. It's just
and one step further than that, your unemployment that the city is paying you is going a portion of that back to the city to help the city fight against you. Like that.
because I have to take
Blows my
80%.
mind.
Yeah, I get to take I take a pay cut down to 80% of what I was making, and then 10% of what I was making goes towards taxes, and a portion of that has to go towards keeping me out of a job. It's just the whole thing just turns into one ginormous cluster F is what it turns into.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's been a great discussion. I want to like check in with you every now and again.
Absolutely.
We'll stay connected on the social media and everything, and keep happening, seeing what's going to happen. What's the next? You guys have like another meeting, or like what is the next thing we can expect to hear about from you?
Very next thing for us, July 13th is the next city council meeting. We're trying to think of what is going to be the best approach to go and attend that meeting with, what kind of presentation or what kind of whatever it is. All I can say is that if you're listening to this and you're in our area, what we have been doing doesn't work. So if you're just going to go down there and wear your subversive attire, or hold up your signs that are pro-cannabis, whatever that is, whether it be a Guy Fawkes mask or your, marijuana is less dangerous than city council or whatever that is, those are all awesome, and they're all very much so appreciated. And I can tell you unequivocally, after I attended the last meeting, those are no longer helping us. So at the next meeting, come prepared with something else. That's all I can think to tell you. And I will be in contact with you via Free the Choice podcast on some ideas between now and the 13th. But City Council, July 13th is the next thing that we got going on. And then we have a rally that we want to coordinate, but there'll be more information as the details start to shape up for that as well.
And that's all on facebook.com/freethechoice. And we'll have links to that in the show notes at hotboxpodcast.com.
Yep.
So good stuff. Hey, do you got a few minutes? There was a few just real quick news stuff I wanted to talk about that weed related. There was an interesting article on Cannabis Now about the labels on edibles and how nothing seems to be getting labeled correctly. Now, whether this is the labs having a flawed protocol or if this is just people slapping numbers on it. I saw something in there that said some of these labs that do this kind of consulting, they don't have equipment per se, so they just kind of guess at what they think it is. Maybe they eat the sample. I don't know. So a lot of problems. And so there was a study that came out in the Journal of American Medicine. And these guys, they looked in California and Washington. They said in the study that like we didn't look at every medical state. What we looked at were the largest medical markets, and that's California, Washington, Oregon. So what they looked at was in Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and they found that 23% had undervalued the potency of what was labeled. 17% had accurate labels, which leaves 60% that had overvalued. And they said this was interesting. If you were in the Seattle area, your edibles were more likely to be more potent than what the label said. And if you were in the LA area, your edibles were found to be less potent than what the label said.
That is a big problem both ways, actually.
It is, definitely. And I mean, I have a pretty good tolerance. Like, it takes a lot of edibles, a lot of milligrams in the edibles to really like make me fall asleep. But a lot of people don't. And what they found one, and this is the most, it contained 1.2 grams. Now, 1,200 milligrams is what was in this one edible that was labeled as saying that it had 200. 1,200
we offer
different than 200.
To just give you a baseline, we offered products that we had cookies and brownies that were 10 milligrams a piece, just to give you a baseline of how off that is. So
well, and in Washington, your edibles can only be in 10 milligram doses. So and those are packaged. Like I had they were Choco something. They were white chocolate infused. They were so amazing. But you open the bag and there's like 7 or 8 in the bag, but then each one of those is in its own bag, which is, I mean, that's another problem with packaging and how Washington wants to be as careful as they can. I understand that, but it's funny to see like this
bag within a bag.
yeah, a bag in a bag with 80 milligrams, but divided up into 10 per 8 pieces. Yeah,
that does make sense. But yeah, 1,200 milligrams.
Yeah,
that's a problem. That would knock you and I out. I mean, if we split that would knock you and I out.
That's 1.2 grams. That is a gram of dab, but pure like 1,200 milligrams. That's insane.
That's
their team found an edible that was labeled as having 200 milligrams, and it only had 2 milligrams in it.
That's a problem too.
So go either way.
You think you're getting 200 milligrams, and so you nibble at it very carefully because you're like, oh my God, I don't want to F myself up on this. So you nibble at it carefully, and you get no benefit out of it at all.
And that's the stuff you would expect to deal with in a non-market. Like, oh, my friend made these, eat a little bit. Because I don't know what's in it. We put half a pound of weed in it. So but these are markets. Like, these markets need to have, and I'm the last person to talk about more government regulation, but we need to have a set of standards between the lab and the markets that are, here's how this is going to work to ensure, like a best practices, something like that.
Absolutely. Well, see, and I don't know as far as definition-wise and legality-wise what the difference is between a standard and a regulation, but I couldn't agree more. The more we can standardize everything and just make it, this is what it is, what it is, what it is, the better. Because
what it is that we have such a negative association with regulation because of how corrupt our government is. Regulation shouldn't be a bad thing. Regulation should be, here's how we've all decided that this is the best way to do this. And if one person is getting 200 milligrams and one person is getting 1,200 milligrams, and of course that is the most extreme case. That wasn't common, and don't freak out that there's all these edibles have 1,200 milligrams. That was one appalling case. Most of them were just a little off one way or the other, but still, if a lab is doing this, you shouldn't be off at all. Like, you should be, here is how much is in there.
Yeah.
You don't get like an 80 milligram oxy that's got 250 milligrams of oxycodone in it.
You're going to die. Yeah, you're going to die.
Right. And luckily for people, marijuana isn't something that can have that effect and kill you. If anything, you're just going to fall asleep for 8 hours. And like, what happened?
Why is it freaking Friday morning now? I took that Wednesday night after the Hotbox podcast.
That's still no excuse to have things mislabeled.
Absolutely.
So I definitely agree with the study here, and I'll have links to it in the show notes on hotboxpodcast.com. You can check it out, and the link, if you're into the actual study, you can read it. So pretty interesting stuff, though, and as this becomes more pervasive, you're going to need some sort of, let's get these plus or minus 2 milligrams.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah,
500.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, you go grab an Oxycontin or even a aspirin off the shelf, and it says this is accurate within 2 to 4 milligrams. Like, well,
may have
the shelf then. But one thing I can tell you that we encountered was, and I'm not exactly sure what the strain was. All I know is that the strain was reported as having 41% THC. I don't care how hard or how awesome.
Just say that's impossible.
I don't know how hard you work. I don't care how freaking awesome you are at producing flowers. There is not a plant in existence that can produce over 30% THC. It just can't be done. Go ahead and feel free to defy me if you'd like, but as far as my understanding, it just can't be done. And it turns out what actually ended up happening was whoever did the labeling on that strain was dyslexic. It actually was 14.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Or what I've noticed too, and I've been doing a lot of weed reviews over on stuffstonerslike.com. They'll have the different percentages of the different cannabinoids that are in there, but then they'll add them all together, and that will be the percentage that's in bold.
Yes.
So, and it's not just THC and THCA, and you should have it all one or the other, but they're adding THC, THCA, CBG, CBD, CBA, whatever else shows up in there, adding it all together and then making that bold, like that's your THC content when that's your everything
content.
And it's not mislabeling, but it is misleading.
Misleading, absolutely. What we had was every distributor that we got with, we had THC-A, I think, was usually listed first, then the THC, then the CBDs, and then after all that it said total of, and it would say whatever the content was for the total of all of that. So we would make sure to point out, all right, well, if you're after this just to get high, you want this one. We'll point out, all right, here's THCA, you're wanting that. Oh, you're wanting this for medicine? Here's our highest CBDs we got. And, you know, we would kind of base it that way. So
I just actually finished up one on a skunk haze. It's the CBD skunk haze, though. So the internet lore said that back in 2012, I believe, this group in, I think, Amsterdam, I might be wrong on where, but they were called the CBD crew, and they got together with this seed company, and they created this strain of skunk haze that is, theirs was equal. So it was like 8% THC.
Wow.
CBD. The one I have, assuming the numbers are correct, and I don't have enough to actually get it analyzed now, but it's 11 and 7, which is cool. It's more CBD than THC.
That's
so
great. Yeah, that's great for people with, like, you know, that are sick and whatnot. That's what people are.
Yeah. And they have
in epilepsy. That's what they're looking for, is the CBDs.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for pain and not like getting, you know, completely couch locked, it's good.
Stuff, yeah.
That there was a group doing like phenotype cloning, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how they were doing it, but making CBD versions of regular strains. Like a skunk haze is regular, just a THC strain. So they took it and bred into it, you know, this CBD, I guess, branch of the skunk, whatever skunk one they were using or something. And
that's actually
over years, they came out with this high version in CBD of this good, you know, THC plant, which is
awesome. Yeah,
yeah, definitely check. I'll have those up on stuffstonerslike.com. People can check those out. And then the other thing I wanted to mention before we wrap this up is not only are people having some labeling problems, but also somewhat of a pesticide issue. So
no.
Yeah, and the problem is not so much that pesticides are being used. I mean, obviously that's a problem. You got to cut bugs down and everything, though, if you want decent weed. But it's that some of these pesticides leave behind certain things in the plant that when they are heated become not good for people. So
Sure.
There was a list in May. Colorado had their Department of Agriculture release a list of pesticides and fungicides that you can use in growing your cannabis. And then after that, Washington followed suit with their list. But they say that these lists, they only focus on natural pesticides, things like cinnamon oil, garlic, and they don't provide a lot of info about any kind of potential long-term effects that these synthetic pesticides on a crop that you're not eating, but you're actually adding heat to, and then you're inhaling it.
Sure.
And so that's completely different than pesticides used on corn that you ingest because you're eating it. And that's a different process than smoking it.
Yeah.
So
Goes to a different area. Yeah, definitely.
they had a chemistry PhD from the workshop. His name was Jeffrey Raber. They said, quote, "You can consume a large amount of pesticides from the plant by smoking it." And they published a study here that has, you know, the effects of pesticides on marijuana, and they found up to 70% of pesticide residues on the weed. It could be ingested through smoking. So
yeah, that's a problem.
It is. And the problem is we don't know what kind of problem it's going to turn into. So,
yeah, exactly. What were on the some of the approved ones?
let's see, there's a link to a list of it on toxicfreenc.org, and I'll put a link to these. And these are ones that they're showing pesticides commonly used on tobacco.
Okay.
So probably a lot of those would be the same, but again, it's a different plant also. So
Yeah.
you know, who knows what it's doing, at least like at the cellular level with any of the terpenes or cannabinoids that are in weed.
Yep.
It's very different than other plants. So, and again, he goes on, the researcher states that, you know, if you're using this for medical, like, that is completely unacceptable.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on, you don't see that in, like you were saying, your Tylenol may contain between 1 and 1,000 milligrams of active ingredient. Like, that's not medical.
May or may not have pesticide on it.
And before, I mean, nobody knew, right? You couldn't research this because the scheduling, because of the federal government and all that. So we will start to see this stuff. I would say for now, to play it safe, just, you know, try and find stuff that doesn't have pesticides. And I run across it in the recreational market. It'll say like Azamax, I think, is one that they use. And it'll say it on the label, which at least it lets you know. I don't know if they have to or if some farms just do. So again,
they do. I had a friend of mine that ran into some spider mite problems before he flipped to flower, fortunately. But he ended up having to put Avid on his.
Avid or neem oil, or I mean, it depends. It depends how bad the infestation is. And I'm not a grower at all. I don't do any of that. So I'm really not the person to speak on that. But from what I've seen people do, like, it's either that or flood it with nitrogen, or it depends. And people in Oregon that I've talked to said that the more people get into this and there are checks happening, they're not being clean about going from grow to grow, about changing or getting in clean suits. And it sounds like overkill, but it takes like one mite. You don't even know it's there. You go into the next grow, and just like that, now there's 2 infestations. And then that, it's not just like contained to the grows. Those will go outside and eat your trees and shit. Like, that's not good.
Those will move on. Yeah. My friend was saying that he thinks that his dog might have actually been the culprit, brought it in from outside, possibly.
Yeah. And that's old school, like, yeah, my dog's in the grow and stuff. But if you're producing for any kind of medical and even recreational, like, we should not have animals in our grows. I mean, keep it clean.
Yep.
Should definitely keep it clean for sure.
Definitely. Yep.
So, and there again, just saying clear regulations would make it easier to distinguish between growers that stick to natural pesticides and those who prefer the synthetic sprays. And they say that just like pesticide restrictions, the regulations surrounding organic labeling is done at the federal level. Since you can't grow marijuana legally, you can't grow organic marijuana either. And they say for now, growers and researchers were pleased to see some attempts at guidelines from the state level and hope a federal change is on the horizon, either legalizing marijuana or relaxing the rules so the EPA can at least weigh in on how the crop is grown.
That's a good idea. I 100% agree with that.
And I'll put links in the show notes, still whole articles there. You can read them. Pretty interesting stuff, especially the study. So it's good that studies are happening and getting funded, and not just studies that are like, well, we're going to try and prove how bad this is for you. Because back in the day, that's all that would get funded.
Yep.
So
Yep.
It's good to see. All right. Well, Nathan, thank you for your time, man. I hope things start going more positively there. And if not, you might have to move, and that sucks. But if people mass exodus, then you're going to have a ghost town there. And then when they finish living, you can go back and reclaim. I guess.
Definitely, yeah.
That sucks, but
it does. It does suck. It sucks, but the thing is that we won this fight. We'll win it again. We must prevail. Yes.
Just like they feel they're on the right side, you are actually on the right side. We have science and evidence.
In actuality, 2 different things. So yes, we did abyss once upon a time. Yes, we can abyss once again. So we'll do it. We can do it. We will do it. We have to. Otherwise I'm going to be screwed into doing something I hate again. And I literally don't make decisions to have to go back and change them. So let's do this, folks. Don't make me have to go back on my word.
That's right. And please, Montana, legalize pot so I can go home.
No kidding.
I like Washington. It's nice, but my home is in Montana. Come on. Yeah. That's all. So Facebook.com/free the choice. We'll be keeping an eye on that, following you. So thank you, Nathan.
Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate it.
Stay well, man. All right. And of course, the winner of her box, Dan, will get that sent out to you. Email info@hotboxpodcast.com. And if everyone else wants a her box, they are pretty cool. Mine's in the living room because it's awesome. I don't keep it in here, but check out herbox.com, HERBBOXX.com. And of course, make sure to follow what Nathan's doing over there on Facebook.com/freethechoice. I got a new review up on the Nectar Collector. This thing's pretty cool. It's like a handheld. I don't have any of this stuff in here, but it's on stuffsnarslike.com. So check it out. There's a video I made showing how to use it. It's basically a handheld dabber, and you have a glass dish and you heat the tip up and then you pull like a straw. It's really cool. So check that out. There's a review of the Quartz Castle. It's a little quartz borosilicate nail basically. So I tried that out. Still haven't cracked it yet. So I am impressed. It is actual pure quartz. So good stuff. And then a bunch of good weed reviews all over on stuffsnarslike.com. Check out links to everything we talked about here in the show notes at hotboxpodcast.com. Subscribe on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We got Facebook, Google+, all that stuff. So make sure you follow us. Follow the Instagram. All sorts of pictures of weed and fun stuff like that. So, all right. Well, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next week. Have a great evening.